One of the reasons why I began to draw Salem Brownstone was because there wasn't really a script. I was receiving a few pages at a time, so there was a lot of room to go in and make changes and rewrite things visually. I do not consider myself an illustrator, as an illustrator illustrates what has already been written. I'm an artist, and I enjoy reinterpreting things and putting them in a context which I feel is new and progressive. I was given a lot of visual references by the writer, including photo shoots from Dazed and Confused and Japanese comics. I, however, completely disregarded these because although I am by nature a referential artist, I enjoy employing references which are subtle and which add impact to the depth of the characters and story. One of the examples of how I employed references was the characterization of Salem himself. There was no description of Salem in the script, and many people have asked me if Salem is based on someone, and one or two people have even assumed that Salem was based on them. However, Salem is not based on anyone. He is a conglomeration of many comic characters which I felt to be iconic and classic in feel. For example, his ears are somewhat Tintin-esque. His eyebrow is a clear reference to Frank Hampson's Dan Dare. In this way, I wanted to create a character that was familiar and yet new, something future retro. Another character who I decided to take a fresh approach to was Cassandra Contortionist. The descriptions of her in the original script were as your sort of average, busty, blonde girl interest, and I really wanted to do something different with this, as I felt that this was a stereotypical image which was in far too many comics. I wanted to invest her with a bit more charm and quirkiness. One of the things I decided to do is have her tangled up in almost every single image of her. An example of how I wanted to alter her character from how it was portrayed in the original script is perhaps in the final scene where she says goodbye to Salem. In the script, she says something to him, leans over and kisses him rather racily. I felt that this was rather too obvious, and what I had to do instead, without altering any dialogue, is lean over, say her piece, and straighten his eyebrow, which has been cocked rather absurdly for the entire comic. A character who I took a rather intense approach to was Lorelei the Mermaid. She was described in the script as something of a gypsy with long black hair and bangles. Salem and Cassandra go down to the basement of a lighthouse, where she rises, and the visual reference I was given was the poster of the movie The Ring, with the girl's eyes above a water level with her hair splaying out. One of the things which has always bothered me in comics is the lack of sinister mermaids. I decided to do something completely different with Lorelei and introduced a long staircase going down into the bowels of the earth. I also created geography within the lighthouse itself, including various tableaus where one could look inside the lighthouse, as there were no descriptions of the interior. Salem circumnavigates the outside and discovers a manhole, where the pair discover a tomb filled with giant Aztec carvings of Tinkatok robots. I was at the time very interested in drawing semi-translucent objects, and decided to make Lorelei a cross between a jellyfish and something humanoid. her jellyfish body became a rather large ball gown underwater, and her double faces, the row of shark teeth smiling beneath the baby doll lips, indicated the sinister edge which I was hoping to communicate with this character. One section of the comic which I was particularly proud of was Mubrick. In the original script, there was no real movement through Mubrick. We cut directly to the Dark Elders, who are in the script described as 4 Harry Potter-ish hooded figures clustered around a crystal ball. I decided that I wanted to have a bit of geography in Mubrick, and I wanted it to be a completely lightless place. But the challenge of drawing a lightless place, of course, presents a rather sticky problem for an artist as everything is black. I invented a sort of candle-headed character whom the dark gods used to light their cigarettes, which in this case were dried-up bodies. I also wanted to give each Dark Elder a bit of character and sort of change them from this hooded thing, which I felt was becoming a bit of a cliche in fantasy literature. I also wanted to get into the mechanics of the Dark Elders, and an opportunity arose when Ed is possessed. In the script, a cloud of flies down Ed's throat, and he is possessed by one of the elder gods. I decided that what I would rather like to have is a fly, which gets bigger and bigger as Ed gives it more attention, and then finally crawls down his throat. I envisaged one of the dark gods was bloated with all the souls that he had possessed, and fabricated a scene where Ed becomes possessed and awakens in the eye of one of the elders, surrounded by all the other souls whom the dark god has consumed over the centuries. Another area which I gave a lot of attention in this manner was the end. In the script, Usyk opens a sort of portal in the air, which leads to a giant Gothic tower, which Salem climbs up. But I decided I wanted to make the portal a little more bio-organic and do something a bit more about Usyk's role as a familiar. I believed that the best way to do this was have a portal open in the back of Usyk himself, and then once Salem had crawled through, he would be in the sphere of the towers, which were in fact large tentacles leading to a black sun. Salem comes out of Usyk's mouth, and in fact, in this tower realm, Usyk finds his true place of habitation and is seen in his full form as large and floating, and his butterfly tongue provides a bridge from him to the tower. And if you look in the background, you will see many other Usyk-type figures with other tongues leading to other towers for other people. These few examples should give you a glimpse into what it was like for me to shape and create Salem's universe, which I wanted to become a reinvention of the Gothic within pop culture. One of the reasons why I enjoyed drawing Salem Brownstone so much was that there were no rules whatsoever to follow. It was like being given a piece of clay which could be shaped in any manner, way, or form. I feel that this handmade approach reflected in the fact that all the art is handmade with pen and ink, harkened back to a time where comics were created rather than produced to fulfill a need within the public. I wanted Salem Brownstone to be an item of pleasure. I wanted it to be a children's book so that it carried with it the nostalgia of all those picture books we have seen when we are children. I wanted to reinterpret this nostalgia for contemporary readers, and perhaps give them a glimpse into a mysterious world which came out of a very cheap throwaway pen.